Welcome to the Fit Founder Series, episode 3 with Lara. She's the co-founder and CEO of Bivouac right here in San Diego, California. An amazing woman. Can't wait for you to hear her story in her interview and how paddleboarding 50 miles actually makes her a better CEO. Lara, thank you so much for doing this interview. I truly appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And this is
Kim Kardashian.
Thanks for being here too, Kim. We appreciate you. For those of you who don't know who Lara is, if you will please introduce yourself and what it is that you do.
Sure. My name is Lara, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bivouac Cider Works. We are a craft cider company here in the heart of North Park, San Diego. We say we make craft cider for active adventurers. The word bivouac means temporary camps. Our whole vibe is outdoor action adventure, camping, climbing, hiking, and we really encourage and support people that like a healthy, active lifestyle and who like to enjoy fine food and beverage.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. So being that your brand is so involved in nature and outdoors, before we jump into that, actually, I just kind of want to preface this whole interview is really about founders who take wellness very seriously, take their health very seriously, and how they prioritize that in conjunction with building a business, like how health and fitness and wellness is a part of you being a successful founder, a successful business owner, and how it actually helps you in what it is that you do in being a business owner. So with that said, what kind of wellness practices do you practice that help you in your business?
I've always been pretty active, just involved in outdoor adventure in any form. People always ask, am I a climber? Because climbing is kind of Bivouac's thing, and we have climbing rope in our tap room, and our bathroom has rock climbing handholds and everything, and people say, do you climb? And I say I did before I opened a business based on climbing. So I'm super into paddleboarding and yoga and hiking and basically anything that you can do in the outdoors to stay fit and active and kind of combine nature and activity. I do it and I love it, and I kind of grew up doing it and always prioritized it in my life. I will say that running a company definitely is overwhelming and can be taxing and can be tiring and can like take so much of your time, effort, and energy. And when you forget to do the very thing, in my case, like I forget to do the very thing that I started this company for. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to take the time to stop and go out and do it. The way we started talking the other day is that I just came back from a trip in Utah. We were kind of off the grid camping and paddleboarded 50 miles, hiked, camped, climbed, did yoga, like all the things. And I came back and I was like, I'm a literally new person. I'm renewed. I feel like I'm able to tackle things in business so much more easily, that I'm not stressed by things that are small. I appreciate my staff much more. I appreciate being a founder, like just all the things that you kind of forget when you get in the thick of things and when you're busy and all these things are happening, like when you get towards burnout. And I always say like yoga solves all problems, and then like I won't do yoga for a long time, and then I'll be like, I have all these problems, and then I go to do yoga and then I feel better, and I'm like, I really should have listened to my own advice. So definitely like prioritizing and incorporating and having your friends encourage you, or making appointments or dates with other people to like do outdoor or any type of physical activity, I think only makes you a better CEO.
What is it that you think about those activities that helps you to be more grounded and clear and more grateful, more appreciative about life? Like, what do you think it is about being in the outdoors, like this trip that you just did where you're paddleboarding for 50 miles, like such a strenuous thing, right? Something that can be so physically exhausting, but so spiritually fulfilling and rejuvenating. What do you think it is about adventure and the outdoors and nature that that's actually fueling you, like that actually grounds you and does so much good for you emotionally and mentally?
Productively, yeah.
Productively.
The first thing, just literal chemicals like endorphins. When I do exercise, I get really like endorphins hit my bloodstream. I'm like, oh, I feel amazing, or oh, I can tackle this problem. So I think there's just an actual chemical thing in your body that when it is operating, when you're eating good food, when you're exercising, when your body is operating like the machine that it is supposed to, you're thriving, whether that be physical wellness, mental wellness, emotional, interpersonal relationships. When you feel your best, you're going to do better at things. So that's just like chemical bodies 101, right?
Yeah.
But for me, when I set an intention and then do a physical act in furtherance of that intention, for example, yoga. I always feel like at the beginning of yoga, you set your intention and you say, okay, I want to, tackle this issue, or I want to think about this, or I want to feel grateful, or whatever your intention is. And then for an hour, you do a physical activity, and it's kind of like moving meditation, and it forces your mind to be thinking about the thing that you're doing with your body, rather than like the thing that you might want to think about or might not want to think about, And so like if you just sit here and meditate, the thoughts are going to come in and out, and like if you're super zen and can like let things pass through, then good for you.
Yeah.
But
good for you.
Yeah, then you're cool. But like most people can't. They're like, brains never stop. But if you have to focus on something else, like this hard thing that you're doing, your brain has to focus on that thing. So this trip in Utah was very hard. We were doing super off the grid camping, so we have to build our campsite and cook our food and carry our poop and build our tents, and it was legit.
Where can I sign up?
We went with a really cool two cool companies kind of collabed on it. One's called Wild Women Tribe. Ooh. And they kind of brought the yoga and wellness and kind of like the woo-woo mental health part of the trip. And then breakwater expeditions. They run canoeing, kayaking, sort of water expeditions in a bunch of different places. You can always plan your own thing, but I love paddleboarding, I love exercising, but I wouldn't just wake up in the morning and be like, I'm gonna go paddleboard 50 miles. I knew that I needed it, but I knew that I wouldn't do it on my own. So I was like, I'm gonna book this trip where they're gonna force me to go do this very hard camping and yoga and hiking and paddleboarding and all the things. But if somebody else makes me do it, I will do it. So I always like to get with a friend and say, okay, let's go climb, or let's go hike, or let's go exercise in whatever way to force me to do the thing and hold me accountable.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I did this, 5 days in Labyrinth Canyon, and they say that only 1% of the population will ever see this green river, because the only way you can access it is by boat, canoe or a paddleboard. And so it's and most people aren't going to do it. I was like, that was the coolest thing of the whole trip, because I'm like, it was beautiful, gorgeous nature, untouched for sure. And nobody else is going to do that because it's too hard.
Yeah.
Which is like being a CEO.
Yeah, I like the correlation you just put there.
It is. Founding a company, building a company, being a CEO of a company is very hard. And if you don't prepare yourself mentally and physically and be ready for it to be hard. We're in the middle of that paddleboarding trip, and I was like, I'm sick of paddleboarding. My arms hurt and I don't want to do this anymore. But guess what? You're stuck in the middle of this river if you don't paddleboard the rest of the way around.
And there's a lot of overlap with business and with physical activity, right? It's
exactly that.
Building you up for, hard things and discipline and mentally pushing through things. Even when they're hard, you still get it done, right?
I was in a spin class one time, and the trainer said something, and I wrote it down that day. We did a really hard spin class, and she said, it doesn't get easier, you get stronger. And I just think that's such a metaphor for life, that you
so good.
All these things that we do, in business, you're always going to have something hard come up.
100%.
But if you've encountered it before, and if you've made yourself strong, you will get through it.
I love that one. That's really good, actually.
I tell all the young people that work for me, I go, imagine you're hiking a mountain, and as you're hiking, you get to the middle, and it's really hard, and it's hot, and you're tired, and your backpack is heavy, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you have two choices. You can either turn around and go back down, and if you do that, you'll never know what the view is from the top. You will never push through. You will never, that middle stage is as far as you ever get.
Yep.
But if you go to the top, then you will accomplish that goal. You will see what's at the top. You will get to the top, and you'll look around and you say, oh my gosh, the view is beautiful. You'll realize why you did that really hard thing. So imagine that some guy runs up next to you, and he does it in 2 hours, and it takes you 5 hours to get up the mountain. But you do it, and you slog along, and you get to the top. You look out over the view. You have a drink of your Bivouac cider.
Nice plug.
And go, oh, it's pretty nice. This is what I'm doing here. And then you go back down, then going back down is easy. And the next day you're like, all right, let's do it again. And that day you could do it in 4 hours. And the next day you do it in 3 hours. And the next day you do it in 2 hours, and you and this guy are up there at the same time, or maybe you smoke him. And you're like, yeah, I feel accomplished. I am strong. I got stronger.
Yeah.
I trained myself to do this. And this mountain is no longer hard.
Yeah.
You then get to the top, you look around and you realize there's only bigger mountains. Right. And they will be for the rest of your life, right?
100%.
But when you come to the next mountain that's double the size of the one you just conquered, you go, well, I did a hard thing before. I wasn't strong at the beginning, and after I did it a whole bunch, I got strong. So, all right, I'll do this mountain. That's how I felt as a CEO in business. I look at problems that I had 5 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever, where I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna quit. Like, this is terrible. It's just too much. I don't want to do it. And then I would, get through it, not quit. And then those are the times in my life that I have felt the most empowered.
Yeah.
When I have done a seriously hard thing and gotten through it. And it's just like when you end a hard workout. In the middle, you're like, this is fucking terrible. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I hate working out. I hate hiking. Why did I do this to myself? But as soon as you finish it, the endorphins kick in and you go, I love working out. Let's plan another, I feel amazing. I'm strong and and so like, that's how I feel in business all the time. I get through a very hard thing and then I go, oh, and then I get a problem later and I go, well, I've been through problems before, so let's dive in. Yeah. And you just got to keep doing it.
I feel like there's people who want to skip the workout. Like, let's take this this mountain analogy that you just did. For the person that's like, I want the view, but I don't want to climb the mountain. I'm just going to take a helicopter up there and I'm going to get the same view as you. It's like, yeah, but it's not seeing the view from the top of that mountain. It's who you become in climbing the mountain. And the view is that much more beautiful and you appreciate it so much more, and like all the adversity and what you had to become in order to get to the top of that mountain. You're a different person by the time you get up there.
Totally.
It's the same thing with like people in the gym, people who are buying a certain figure, and that's fine, but it's just skipping the whole process of like who you become in the process of getting that body, all the discipline, all of the time that's invested in, and what it requires for you to be able to get those results. You become a different person in the process versus the person that just buys it. You're still the same person. You haven't changed, but you have a different figure.
Absolutely. I think that, happiness, like what a broad term. As you grow, as you get older, as you do hard things, as you work out, as you climb more mountains, as you build companies, you realize at some point that it is not about the view, that it is about what you've seen on the way. You know what I mean? It's about the trail. Actually, I had gone on a different trip with that same company, Wild Women Tribe, a few years ago. There was this exercise that they made us do. Actually, the person who was teaching the exercise was an Olympian skier. She was like an older woman, but she had won a medal in the Olympics for skiing. So she was, tough and kind of same thing, like any extreme athletes and anybody that's accomplished things and had to go through very hard things on the way, like, will understand that it is about the journey, that it is about how strong you're getting, that, like I said, you get to the top of one mountain, there's only more mountains, and it will be that for the rest of your life, right? There's nobody that I mean, I guess if you climb, if you climb Everest, I suppose you should quit climbing because that's kind of like it, but most people don't climb Everest. So anyway, she had us do this exercise. We had to stand on this long line and you danced, and you had to dance like you were 5 years old, and then you had to dance like you were 10 years old, then you had to dance like you were 15 years old, and it was kind of like at the teenage years you like kind of did the like I'm too cool or whatever, like, and then you had to dance when you're like 20 years old and 25 and whatever, and this went on until you were like 85 years old, and you kind of danced your way through life or whatever, and then you turn around, and then she said turn around and like look back at your life, think of who you are as an 85-year-old, the things you have seen and the different ways that you have danced and the life that you have experienced and that led you to be dancing in that way. You were going to raves when you were 20, or you were getting married when you're 30, whatever. You've experienced this different stage of yourself during all these years, but when you're 85, you turn back and you look at your life and you think, you're not saying like, oh, what's my next dance gonna be? You're saying like, what was I doing while I was dancing? Or like, what life have I lived, or what lessons do I know? So I just thought that was such a meaningful exercise because it gives you perspective when you're in the thick of it. I can give a lot of advice, but like, I still cry every day, and I still like complain when I'm hiking, and I still like say I don't want to do this anymore and threaten to quit running the company like every other week or whatever.
And then you have a glass of cider and then you're back to it.
Yeah, or a workout. You know what I mean? Like literally.
Or a good workout, yeah.
I went to Utah. I came back like 2 weeks ago, and like as of this week, the Zen is gone. I am no longer like whatever. So I'm like, okay, as long as I go to camping in Utah every other week for my entire life, like I'll be fine. But
which, by the way, people who don't drink alcohol, is it just apple juice? It's literally just apple juice, because I know you have some non-alcoholic.
What is cider? Bivouac produces cider, and we sell it in the broad market. So in San Diego, Orange County, LA, and all of Arizona, Vaughn's, Sprouts, Total Wine. You can buy, cans, and then bars and restaurants and clubs and whatever. But we also sell here in North Park. We have a tasting room and restaurant, and then we have this thing where we're sitting in the Adventure Lodge. And here in the on premise here in North Park, we have both alcohol and non-alcohol. In the market, we only have alcohol for now. But here in the tap rooms, we always have non-alcoholic cider. And yes, that's basically juice. I mean, we make different combinations of them, and we, add things to them and make them interesting. Like we just made a cucumber collagen. So like we make it into interesting things for the non-alcoholic, but we only sell those here. In the US, when people say cider, they often are referring to like fresh pressed apple juice that you would get like in Julian in San Diego, or like out of an orchard or whatever. If in that fresh pressed juice they would call cider, unfiltered or whatever, like not Mott's apple juice that you buy in the grocery store. So I would say that's what Americans call cider, and then they say hard cider for cider with alcohol.
Gotcha.
In England, France, Spain, anywhere else, cider is popular. If you say cider, it just means alcohol. There is no such thing as non-alcoholic cider. If you were talking about apple juice, they would just call it juice. Okay. So here, calling it non-alcoholic cider is like a uniquely American thing. In order to make cider with alcohol, you take apple juice and yeast and you ferment it, and then yeast eats sugar, produces alcohol and CO2, and then you get something that has alcohol but no sugar. And then some companies go through an additional process where they remove the alcohol. So the benefit of that is that the fermentation process removes the sugar, and then the de-alcoholization process removes the alcohol. That is not something we do, because that seems like a very intense process and a lot of money and a lot of waste to go through for juice.
Okay. Are there any health benefits to both hard cider or non-alcoholic cider that you want to share? Because I'm sure there's probably people who are listening that would like to know that. Kombucha, I know that there's hard kombucha and then there's non-alcoholic kombucha, and it's healthy for you, either one is, but or there's healthy aspects to either one. Benefits. So for cider, what are the benefits?
So I've been seeing this talked about a lot on Instagram or the media or whatever about, is alcohol healthy? Glad to have an audience.
Glad to have you.
The first thing I would say is I don't generally refer to alcohol as healthy. Is a hamburger healthy? Like, there are health benefits, but we wouldn't necessarily say we're eating like health food when you're eating a hamburger. So like, if you are drinking alcohol, like I wouldn't say it's a health beverage. However, what I think is really being missed in the health community about alcohol is that there are such diverse types of alcohol, how they're made, what the products going into it are they fermented or distilled or whatever. So if you take like Red Bull vodka, that is unequivocally not healthy, right? And but if you take a natural apple juice from organic or locally grown apples or whatever, and you press them and do natural fermentation, so it's yeast that's naturally occurring, the fermentation process is actually healthy. Like, that's how food was preserved. There's a ton of benefits. So that's why people think, kombucha is healthy. Cider is the exact same thing. It's fermentation. And so there are benefits to fermentation. There's that all the way on the one side, which is like natural fruit, natural yeast, natural fermentation process. Like, that's at one spectrum. And then Red Bull vodka is on the other spectrum. And then everything's kind of somewhere in the middle. So I would say, I don't think if you are a healthy person, that means you have to do total abstinence unless you want to. And then vice versa, like I wouldn't say like drink alcohol every single day. You know what I mean? So like I'm like a big everything in moderation person. I'm also like big on like facts. So fruit has vitamins, like everybody knows that. Fruit also has sugar. So if you're drinking cider that's non-alcoholic, the benefit is in the vitamins and antioxidants and things that are in fruit, whatever the product is. So there are benefits to fruit. However, there are negatives to sugar. When you ferment something, there's lower sugar, but then you change the properties of what's in it. So again, I'm like a big moderation person and a big like, not all alcohol is created equal. There's not like one answer to everything. Personally, I think of all the alcohols that are out there, like cider is the healthiest. We take apple juice, yeast, do fermentation, so there's like whatever gut benefits there are to fermentation generally, and then we're blending it. For example, our San Diego Jam cider has blueberries, blackberries, and blackcurrant juice. And so you're taking a fermented beverage and then you're adding these like very concentrated antioxidants and vitamins to it. So it has alcohol, but it's also got some health benefits.
And you're using fresh blueberries and currants and all those things?
We do not, because we're really small. So like we don't have a facility where we get fresh fruit and press it. So we are using juice. At the large scale, like if you're buying it at the grocery store, you're not getting fresh pressed juice. It's just not feasible for like large scale commercial production. Recently I got like some local apples and we press them and we're doing a natural fermentation. So here in the tasting room, we do some experimentation and small batch things. And we've got like a farm partner that's close by. So we always have things on tap that are from local producers that use local apples and natural fermentation. So again, it's a spectrum. Even here at Bivouac, you can have, stuff that's large scale produced and that's used from juice and that's blended or whatever. And then we have some that are kind of more on the healthiest end of things.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on it, because I think it's just an important thing to just have knowledge about, have awareness about. And there's many people who don't drink and there's people who do drink, but I think that awareness is key, and just having knowledge. And if people are going to have alcohol, then why not choose the healthiest that you can possibly have?
That's what I think every time, because I've watched a ton of health podcasts or, commenters or articles or whatever, and they're like, talking about, is alcohol healthy? And in none of those have I ever heard them distinguishing between the types of alcohol, which seems like crazy to me. About 10 years ago, I was not in this business. I'm a lawyer and my friend was a lawyer. We were like fantasizing about doing a business other than being a lawyer. And I was a real big hiker and she was a yoga instructor. And we got together and we decided we were going to make a company, and it was going to be called Workout Party Repeat. And we were here in San Diego and we were like, we love to work out, but like we also like to go out and enjoy food and beverage. And like that's kind of like what San Diego's known for and what really, what we're good at. And there's a lot of people like us that would want to come out with us, do a hike, do yoga at the top of the mountain, and then come back down and go to a brewery or a cidery or a restaurant or whatever. So we're like, we're going to do this company. So we got together and we pitched it to my dad. I was like, Dad, we've got a company. It's called Workout Party Repeat. Here's the thing.
It's kind of like sleep, eat, repeat, right?
Yeah. Right? This was kind of like early days of Instagram and whatever, so we came up with it before that.
Okay. Before it was too cool for school. Okay,
exactly. At the time it was very early. But anyway, we like pitched the idea, and then he made us run some numbers. He was like, okay, how much do you make as a lawyer? How much do you make as a lawyer? Like, how many hikes can you do? How much yoga can you do? How many people can you take at a time? Like, whatever. And we like did the math, and we're like, that's not a good business idea, right? So we like promptly scrapped that business. My dad's thinking he like Shark Tanked us and like whatever. 2 years later, I ended up starting Bivouac, and we are an outdoor action adventure lifestyle company that makes alcohol and has food and beverage, like hospitality concepts.
Your way like full circle.
Yeah,
basically.
I'm like, I did it.
You did it just in a different way than you thought that it was going to be. But that's kind of like a lot of things in life where you want to do something, but maybe it's not the right time or the right idea, but that's something that you desire, and life kind of works its way
100%.
there in some way, shape, or form, but not the original way that you thought that it was going to come to fruition, but in a completely different way.
Yeah. And like you kind of put it out there in the universe, and then like, it turns over in your mind, and like you talk to people and you climb the mountain, and then you get to the harder mountain,
and then you meet
whatever,
some people at the top of the mountain. They're like, go this way. There's this other route that has a beautiful view or whatever it is.
That's exactly right. I'm not a lawyer anymore, and I like go paddleboarding for my job, and I hike mountains for my job, and then I also drink for my job. Yeah. I really accomplished all my goals.
I know that community is really big for you. I know that women relationships are really big big for you. How have relationships helped you in your mental health, emotional health while running a business? I know that you're very limited on time, but I know that you still make time for those relationships, because I think that it is a part of wellness. Like, it's not just about fitness and, being physically fit, but it's also about wellness, and wellness is about all the other aspects. So how do relationships help you in that part of your wellness, and what do you look for in relationships, and what kind of circles do you like to put yourself in?
I always say, I've been really busy since I started this company, so I created these spaces where I would attract the people that I wanted to hang out with. So here you are, and that's how we met. You came into my space.
Yep.
So, you kind of create the community that you want to be a part of in building Bivouac. And we've got 2 spaces. We have our original restaurant and tap room, and that's kind of like the original space, and it's all decorated with climbing rope, and, we partner with Mesa Rim Climbing Gym, and all the type of outdoor adventure people are attracted to it because it looks like a place that you would want to hang out, like an adventurous cave or whatever. And then the place where we're sitting now, this side, I wanted to, first of all, I was like, we need a clubhouse. And actually I was having events over at our tap room and restaurant, and I had an event from REI, queer climbing, Latino outdoors. We had all these organizations, San Diego Canyonlands, there were all these outdoor organizations that kept having events at my space. And every single one of them was run by a woman. And every single one of them was saying very similar things. And I was like, these people need to meet each other, and these people need to be networking with each other, and these people need to be connecting, because they're all aligned and they're all this same type of people, and they all need support, So I was like, we need a clubhouse. So then when I built this side, the Bivouac Adventure Lodge, it's designed like a glamping yurt. So we put in a skylight to make it outdoorsy and feel like you're in a tent. But I designed it to be a place that attracts a diverse community where people can find whatever they're looking for. So we have a coffee shop, we have a cider tasting bar, we have food, we have a retail store that sells outdoor action adventure stuff and kind of camping gear and bivouac merchandise. Somebody was saying that it looked like an REI with a bar in it, and then my friend told me bar EI. So
we're not,
bar EI. I know, it's pretty good. I just looked around in North Park, and I thought, there's all these people that are working from home, and they feel lonely, and they're in their living room and it's dark, and they want to feel like they're outside, but they can't be outside because you got to have a job and whatever. And then I had all these women's organizations, either women's organizations or organizations run by women, and they were needed support, needed connection, whatever. And we have older people. There's an AARP office down the street, and there's older people, and I felt like they were being left out of the conversation in most hospitality places. And we've got people with kids, and they've nowhere to go with their kids, and we've got people that want to hang out with their dogs, but you can't take your dog somewhere, whatever. So I was like, I'm going to build a place that speaks to all of those different type of people, because I identify and connect with all of those type of people, and they're super diverse. But diversity is very important, and seeing people who are not like you is very important, and seeing what other people are into that are not like you is very important. So I was like, I'm going to force people to get to know their neighbors, to network with other people and connections, and sit next to somebody that they don't know, and they're going to get to know each other. I'm going to create a community, and I'm going to force it. Yeah. I'm an aspiring cult leader, honestly, but as I was describing this to people, my concept before we built it, they were like, this is crazy, it makes no sense, what is it? I want a Mexican African inspired yurt inspired interior, and a Parisian sidewalk cafe, and we don't serve to go because it's environmentally friendly, but it's cafe culture that you have in Europe, and it's going to force people to talk to each other. And then I want an REI inspired store, and then I want a cider and everybody's like, this is completely insane, it literally makes no sense. And we opened, you could speak to it because you walked in the door and you come here every single day.
I come here a lot.
And that's what happened. We just open the doors, and I look around, and I'm like, holy shit, I envision this in my my mind, and it is happening. Like, we have old people, we have people with dogs, we have people with kids, we have fitness people, we have founders, we have women's organizations, we have men's meetup groups, we have people shopping for gifts, you know, for their outdoor adventure friend. We've got people cider curious doing a cider tasting. We've had a wedding here. We've got baby shower. Like, literally all the things are happening, and it's, to me, it like makes total sense because I envisioned it in my mind.
Yeah.
And to the people walking in, they think that it was built for them, and they're wildly different. And that's because I was like, there is a way to create community for vastly different people, you know, because everybody thinks they have to fit into, like, you know, you work out, okay, so you can only hang out with other people that work out. Well, no, that's not true. You know what I mean?
Right.
But maybe if you're talking about these endorphins that you get from working out, or maybe you're going on a hike this weekend and you met somebody else who's like less physically fit but needs a little bit of a encouragement. You're like, I'm going to hike this weekend. You want to come? And they're like, okay, you know, and maybe then they do that. Or we have a lot of women founders that come here and have like group meetings or networking or whatever. And I hear their conversations, and they're like, I'm working on this marketing thing, but I have this issue and I don't know how to get through it. She's like, oh, I've had that issue before, and I'll help you. Or, you know, and just that mind meld that happens when you have diversity and community and safety, you know, and like in a welcoming environment, and you can bring your dog. It just like really makes, and your cat, it just makes you more open to the universe, and things happen, you know. And then you asked like in terms of like women and like my connection to women. So, you know, one of our mottos is women powered. The other one is embrace your adventure. So we're definitely like living out those two things for sure. But, you know, lifelong feminist, and I always say, like, no matter what business I started, it was always going to be a feminist business. So here we have a feminist cider company, whether you like it or not. Like, that's what we were going to do. As I've gone through these really hard things in this business, and like there have been really hard things. There have been times where I was like very alone, or really needed help, or really couldn't figure out a problem, or whatever. And at every single turn, women showed up to help, whether it was staff, whether it was random people like that walked in the door, whether it was my mom, whether it was, you know, friends, whatever. Like, they'd be like, what do you need? I'm here to help. And having access to that network, being open to it, and just seeing how women support each other and like show up for each other, and like take everything else aside. If you're in a hard situation and you need help, and you look to a woman anywhere, they're going to help you. And like, that's really what I've learned. I went on like a women's rock climbing trip, and if you've ever been rock climbing, and if you've been, you know, I know you have mixed men and women probably watching this. I watched, you know, men climb together. We were talking about it on this paddleboarding and canoeing trip. There was like some women that were like really paddling hard, and then they made it into the like bay that we were going into, and like all the women on the whole trip were like, yes, like amazing, and they're like, you're so good, and you're so strong, and like, good job, right?
Yeah.
And I was dying because I was like, you know, if this was men on this trip, like 15 men, they'd be like
that.
Hurry up, pussy.
Yeah,
you know, row faster, like, you know, or they'd be like, yeah, finally you made it, or whatever. And we were doing this similarly hard thing. We're dirty, and we're camping, and
cheering
we're
each other
literally
on.
carrying buckets of poop, like whatever. Yeah. And they were like, you can do it.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go. Like, if somebody was scared, they were like, no problem, look out for this, I got you. One day I was like, I cannot, most of the people were on canoes, and I was on paddleboard, and I was like, my arms are gonna fall off, like, I cannot go. And they're like, no problem, tie into me, and they, you know, paddled while I coasted or whatever.
Yeah.
Having a network of women to support you, no matter what you do, is very important. But as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as a hiker or climber, any woman who's doing extremely hard things, have a network of, and a community of other strong, powerful women, because they're gonna have your back when you need it.
Because it really comes down to the tribe that you have, right? Like, you don't want to be by yourself in hard situations. You want to have a tribe of people that are there to help you, and you're there to help them. Since I've met you, I knew from the very beginning, the way that you approached me, the way that we're having a conversation, it's like I could automatically tell off the bat that community was really important to you, relationships are very important to you, connection is very important, and you made an effort to try to get to know me right off the bat. And that to me is like, she genuinely cares about people. Like, you genuinely care about people. And I've been coming in here for months, and you're not that way just with me, but like with everyone that I see you interacting with here in your business. So
I see a lot of people generally, but like founders and CEOs and owners of companies, whatever. First of all, they're busy, and I get it, like, and overwhelmed and over communicated with and whatever. And I probably give away more of myself than I should, and it probably leads to more burnout than I should, right? So like the boundaries or whatever. But I just think like authenticity is so important. And when I see people who are like speakers or influencers or out there, whatever, and then I don't see them genuinely connecting, like it's just performative. First of all, like why, you know? And second of all, like that'll break down very quickly the moment somebody has this type of
it's not sustainable.
Yeah, it's just not. And it's like, it might be a soundbite, it might be a, you know, a fleeting moment, it might be a speech, it might be a whatever, but like the time that you take to pause and have a conversation with somebody like is very meaningful to them. To me, it's very meaningful for me because I just think I learn from everybody. Like literally, whether it's homeless people, like my staff's always making fun of me because I'll be like that. They'll be like, your friend is here or whatever. But I'm like, every single person in the whole world, no matter where they've been, no matter who they are, from unhoused people to CEOs, billionaires, whatever, can teach you something. And most people do not have the confidence or the patience or the perspective to understand how important it is to like let yourself learn from other people. And I watch it all the time. And you know, some days I'll literally be in a room with a billionaire and then I'll be washing dishes in the same day. And I feel like that's hilarious. You know what I mean? Like I'll always laugh to myself, like, what is my life? Like, what am I doing? You know, like, why am I doing this? But when you do that little dance and you're 85 and you look back at your life, you're like, I connected with people, I learned from people, I grew, and you just honestly never know when you're gonna meet a person and learn something from them, and that like you're gonna plant your seed and take it with you, you know? So I just try to keep a very open mind. And again, I really like community. And by the way, all this stuff I learned from my mom. My mom is like the most friendly, community-oriented, giving person, and she also runs a company, CEO. And so like I grew up with my mom as a role model, and like charity and being nice to all types of people and treating billionaires and dishwashers the same is like the lesson from day one. And I just really value people that have that perspective where it's like, I don't care how many followers you have on Instagram, which I think you have a lot, so yes, I'm proud of you.
A few.
But you know what I mean? Like I care about like who you are as a person. I care about if you care about other people, you know, all those things. So.
And they say you can tell a lot about a person's character by the way that someone treats someone in the service industry. You can put on this, you know, persona, this whole personality, but if you go to order a drink from somebody, a coffee from somebody, and you're rude to service, like I think that says a lot about a person. And I think that everyone should be in the service industry. I mean, I was a bartender, I was a cocktailer, I worked in nightclubs, and I've been on the other side. But I just think that it's like how you just treat people, regardless of what their role is, or how much money they make, or how many followers they have, or what they do for work. It's just being nice to people.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because here, as you know, I like animals, and I think you do too.
Yes.
But when we have dogs come in here at the entrance, we have a doggy flight where that's like water, and the dogs like come and try all the water. And then when the dogs come in, I say, "Oh, hello, sir. Would you like a toy?" And so we have a dog. We have like dog beds, and we have a chest of toys. And then I look to the dog owner and say, "Would you mind if I took your dog to pick out a toy?" And they're like, "Okay." And the dog usually will like look at me and look at the dog mom or dad and be like, "Okay." And I'll take the dog, walk him down the hallway, and he's like a little bit skeptical. And then I open the toy chest, and he looks in and is like, oh my God. And then we pick out a toy and then give him a treat and then bring him back to his like mom or dad. And like, I see the look on a dog's face that is like, this is my favorite bar. And the service is amazing. You know what I mean? And it's a funny example, but it is like literally how I feel, where people go, okay, well, you don't need to talk to the dog, but they appreciate it. Like you can literally see in their face that they're like, that was so nice. Look, Mom, I got a toy. You know what I mean? Okay. And so I just think that's kind of
how have I not brought my dog in here?
I don't know.
I'm bringing her in here like as soon as possible. So we're gonna end it with a question from Daily Dopamine. Do you want a question that is deep, deeper, or deepest?
Oh gosh, deepest.
I love it.
I'm not weak.
Okay, pick a card and then I'm gonna read it to you. Okay, so the question is, do you prioritize honesty, even if it means potential conflict, or do you tend to keep your thoughts to yourself to avoid upsetting other people?
That is a very easy one for me, and I think you know the answer, but I'm all honesty. I don't mind conflict. I definitely don't keep my thoughts to myself, anybody that knows me. But as I mentioned, I'm a lawyer, but I also lived on the East Coast for a long time. I am obsessed with authenticity, and I am obsessed with being direct. And I do talk to my staff about this a lot. So, okay, I use this term, unfuckwithable, and I talk a lot about emotional intelligence, confidence, and perseverance as a woman, as a person, as a CEO. But in this path to becoming unfuckwithable, you build confidence from the inside. And I think in this day and age, people are very, very sensitive, and they worry about hurting people's feelings or getting their feelings hurt. And this is kind of like that mountain that you got to keep climbing. That your confidence isn't going to come from external factors. It's only going to come from yourself. It's only going to come from within. You got to be self-aware, and you got to know what other people think of you.
Yeah.
Not everyone matters, you know what I mean? But some people do. I always tell everybody I know, like, if I tell you you look good, like, you look fucking good, because I will never tell you you look good. I might not necessarily like say like you look like shit today, but like I will never tell you, oh, you look really good, and not mean it. And that's the simplest example. But like, if I have somebody working and they do something, you know, that I don't want them to be doing, I go, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's it. It doesn't mean you have to crumble. It doesn't mean I don't like you. It doesn't mean any of those things. It means just do this different thing. Or if you're, again, that's building yourself up, your confidence, and you got to keep climbing that mountain. So like, you do a task, and if you didn't do it well and somebody said, oh, good job, well then that's it. You're stuck at the half of the, middle of the mountain. You're never going to go higher than that, because you don't even know that you didn't do a good job. But if somebody said, you didn't do a good job, here's how you can fix it, and you go, okay, no problem. You fix it, and then you do it again. Well, guess what? You just climbed that first mountain, and you're going to keep doing that and keep doing that. And then like, as you do that, you grow stronger and you grow your own confidence. So it should not matter if I'm honest with you. If you care about me, then, or care about what I think, then it should be something that will, help you and you'll grow from. And if you don't care about what I think, then you ignore it, and it doesn't even matter. So I'm huge on radical honesty and authenticity.
I think when you care about people, you want to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Right? And that's the same philosophy that I use in coaching. It's all in, I think, in the delivery of like how you say it, but I think that honesty really helps people, a genuine like, I care, so I'm going to tell you the truth about this, and it just helps people to grow. And I think that a lot of people are very soft nowadays too, where they can't take the truth, but I'm with you, where I think that honesty is really helpful in a lot of ways. I think that people can work on the delivery of what it is that they're saying.
I could definitely work on my delivery, I'm quite sure. I have been told. And that's the thing, like, again, I'm not perfect, then you can tell me, hey, what you said was okay, but you got to work on your delivery.
But it hurt my feelings the way that you said it.
And I'm like, okay, I don't want to hurt your feelings, and so I will do that different. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I mean. I think people are so scared of conflict, and they want to be so nice all the time, but like, nobody's getting to the real shit. They're not growing. They're not climbing that mountain and getting stronger. And like, that word in there, conflict, like, I believe conflict breeds intimacy. And so like, if we are friends and we have a little disagreement or an argument or whatever, or if I said to you like, hey, I didn't like how you did this, and you go, hey, I appreciate the feedback, but I really did, you could put it a little bit softer next time. I go, no problem. And then we talked about it, we got through it, and we hiked this mountain together. And then like next time I'm going to be like, I'm going to say this a little bit softer because Amanda told me I should soften my delivery, and then you're going to be like, thanks so much, and then we just became even better friends.
Right. Exactly. I 100% agree with you. So thank you so much, Lara. I truly appreciate you being here, and I want to gift you with that box sitting right over there by Daily Dopamine, so you get a set of conversation cards from Daily Dopamine. And I just want to thank you for your time. I truly enjoyed this conversation. We could probably talk for another couple of hours easily.
Yeah. But I loved it as well. Thank you for appreciating and highlighting Bivouac and being like a great customer. And I encourage everybody to get out there and embrace their adventure. I really do believe in all this stuff and that kind of like healthy, balanced lifestyle and diving in and growing as people. And that's really what we're all about. So I hope we can also have a deck here at the Adventure Lodge so people who come here can dive in and create community together.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.